Hi class. I just wanted to talk a little bit about classical conditioning because it just seems like there's always some questions about that. And it can be confusing in terms of all the concepts. So I'm going to first define some of the concepts. We have the unconditioned stimulus, which reflexively produces an unconditioned response. So this is something that happens without training, without any kind of conditioning or association pairing. A good test to determine whether a behavior or a response is unconditioned is to ask the member of the species if that behavior would be exhibited reflexively from birth. So examples might be a puff of air blown into one's eye would produce blinking. So the UCS is the blinking, or I'm sorry, the UCS is the air and the UCR is the blinking. Happens without any kind of training or pairing. Placing food in the mouth would cause someone to salivate. A hot environment would cause someone to start sweating. A loud noise might cause someone or behavioral signs of fear. And so those are just some examples that would occur reflexively, again, without training. And then we have the conditioned stimulus. The conditioned stimulus is a stimulus that has come to elicit a conditioned response because the organism learns to associate the conditioned stimulus with the unconditioned stimulus. So this is an example of that would be a neutral tone, which is an unconditioned stimulus. Doesn't necessarily produce a response until you've paired it with something to create that association. It can be paired with food, as we know in Pavlov's example, which causes the food itself causes the salivation, but not the tone. But when you pair that several times, and it does usually take several pairings, then you'll have the tone itself producing that conditioned response. So that's just some of the concepts, just in terms of some of the definitions. We also know that there are 3 phases of classical conditioning, and so I want to just kind of go through those with you. We have the before conditioning, and we kind of talked about that, where the UCS and the CS have no relationship. There hasn't been, the UCS comes up on its own, and so it's naturally elicited without any kind of training or any kind of pairing. So at this point, it's a neutral stimulus. Then the second stage is during conditioning, and during that second stage, we have the UCS and the NS, and they're paired, leading to the previously neutral stimulus to become a conditioned stimulus. And so the example of the tone pairing with the food would be the conditioning that takes place. And so the tone then ends up eliciting that salivation without the food once you've done that several times. It usually takes for you to pair these things several times to create that association. It doesn't just happen after once. And so, and then finally, the third phase is we have after conditioning, and after conditioning is once the UCS and the CS have been associated, the CS will trigger that response without the need to present the UCS with it. And so again, we talked about the tone, and that's kind of the main example that we hear of when we talk about Pavlov's dog, but there's real life examples as well. And so it might be helpful to read in your text and then kind of think about what might be some real life examples. I know one real life example would be your cell phone and the noises that it makes. We are kind of conditioned to respond to our phones. If someone's bullied on the playground, they might come to pair a playground being associated with something that's not safe. And so we have lots of real life examples of classical conditioning that take place all the time. So hope you're having a great day.